The damn lithium cell caught fire on the 37th test again. That's when Marla, fingers blistered and eyes red from a third night in the lab, yanked the prototype off the test bench, muttered screw your edge case scenarios, and rewired the current limiter with a graphite buffer she knew legal hadn't cleared. It wasn't in the specs. It wasn't Agile process approved, but it worked. Test 38, stable. Test 39, held under thermal pressure. Test 40. No flare, no leak, just a clean discharge curve that would have made Tesla's head of R&D weep. She stared at the screen in silence for a good 10 seconds before whispering, holy shit. She didn't dance. She didn't call for champagne. She saved the log, backed it up to 3 different drives, and printed out the test output like someone printing their own birth certificate. Landon walked in with his hydroponic smoothie and an air of self-assured bro science, glanced at the and grinned like a prom king who thinks the corsage gets him credit for the photosynthesis. Big step forward, he said. Let's tighten the language before we share this with the IP team. If you're listening to this and you're part of the 97% of people who haven't subscribed yet, do me a favor and fix that. It keeps stories like this alive. And more importantly, it keeps the team from having to sell plasma to pay for editing. Anyway, Marla should have been ecstatic. And she was in that sleep-deprived, maybe I can afford a new coffee maker now kind of way. She emailed the team, attached the results, logged her commits, and even added a note in the Slack channel, test 40 passed. Graphite mod might be the key. Reactions were muted, a thumbs up, a cool. Landon dropped a vague, great work team, let's huddle tomorrow. But no one said her name, not once. Still, she was too damn tired to care. She went home to her one-bedroom apartment that smelled like dust and ambition, cracked a white claw, and stared at the ceiling like it owed her rent. She'd done it. 3 years of clawing her way through a startup where every code review came with a condescending chuckle, every idea already covered in Landon's roadmap, every joke told like she wasn't in the room. And now she was undeniable. The next morning, she checked her calendar expecting a patent kickoff invite. Nothing. Just back-to-back meetings with vague titles like Battery Lifecycle Sync and Eng Cross-Functional Review. At lunch, she wandered into the kitchen where the intern, Tyler, who still wore his college lanyard like a dog tag, was telling Landon, dude, this thing could be huge, like IPO huge. Landon nodded sagely, sipping something green. Takes a village, right? Marla waited for her name. Nothing. She smiled. Brittle kind of smile you give a toddler with jam on their face who swears they didn't touch the fridge. Later that day, she peeked at the conference room calendar. Saw a private meeting labeled IP Roadmap, leadership only, no invite, no heads up. She told herself it was just a mistake. A scheduling thing. Maybe they were looping her in later. But that night, as she exported her commits, she noticed something odd in the metadata of the newest draft of the design doc. The author had changed. Her initials, MJT, were gone, replaced by LRL Landon's. It was subtle, easily missed, but she saw it. And that was the moment, not the fireproof test, not the missing invite. That was the moment she realized someone was cleaning house, and they started with her. The document hit her like a brick in the throat. She wasn't snooping. Not really. Marla just happened to spot a folder labeled Patent Drafts Final Open on Tyler's screen during their sprint planning. Tyler, being the walking tech bro Pinterest board that he was, had no concept of screen privacy. One quick glance and there it was. The title of her design, the graphite mod, the test framework, the stabilization metrics. Every inch of the prototype she bled into, right down to her oddly specific naming convention. Stable Patch V10 MJT, just repackaged with new authors. 3 names were listed. Landon, Tyler, and Craig, the other intern who once asked if lithium was the same as that stuff in mood pills. No Marla. She felt a strange stillness move through her body, like being submerged in syrup. Her ears rang. Her fingers curled around the edge of her desk. The bile crawled up, slow and hot. She didn't scream. She didn't knock over a chair or demand a meeting on the spot. She simply stood up, walked to the copy room, locked the door, and sat on the floor for 30 minutes with her eyes closed, counting each breath like she was diffusing a bomb in her chest. Then she printed the draft, highlighted the names, circled the section that lifted her notes word for word, and walked straight to Landon's office. He looked up with the faux concern of a man caught mid-swipe on Hinge. Marla, everything okay? She slid the document across the table. Forgot someone, she said. He didn't even blink. Oh, look, it's just a provisional draft. The actual submission will come later and we can revisit authorship then. I built this, she said. Every test, every result. You used my prototype. That's my name that should be on this. Landon leaned back, hands folded like a goddamn HR mannequin. You were still prototyping. Nothing was finalized. We had to clean it up before filing, and include anything that wasn't reproducible. She blinked once, twice, then nodded, slow and controlled. Got it, she said. So you erased me because I was still doing the work? He chuckled like she'd asked if batteries ran on friendship. Let's not get emotional. This is how the process works. You'll get your shot on the next round. She walked out without another word. Back at her desk, the world blurred. People moved around her like they were underwater, too busy polishing their egos to notice her hands trembling. She opened her laptop, opened Slack, searched for every thread with the words stabilization, graphite, or her name. She scrolled through hundreds of lines, pulled up her GitHub commits, screenshot, archive, repeat. She emailed HR, subject, urgent concern regarding patent attribution. Hi, I've reviewed internal patent documents that include significant work developed by me, without acknowledgement. I'm requesting a formal review of authorship and contribution. Marla T. The response came 2 hours later. Thanks for flagging this. We'll look into it and follow up as needed. Appreciate your patience. She stared at that sentence like it was written in lemon juice and bullshit. We'll look into it. Code for, wait quietly while we wait for it to blow over. Marla didn't reply. She opened a new folder on her personal drive called Insurance and started dragging copies in like digital sandbags for the flood she knew was coming. She made a list, dates, file names, conversations. She downloaded every email, every calendar invite, every backup of her design logs, because Landon had just declared war. He just didn't know it yet. By the following week, the air around her had curdled. Conversations paused when she walked into a room. People, folks she'd worked shoulder to shoulder with through midnight crashes and cold pizza brainstorming, suddenly acted like she'd farted at a funeral. Eye contact, gone. Slack messages that used to have smiley faces now read like legal disclaimers. Marla wasn't stupid. She knew the game. Landon didn't need to call her out directly, he just planted the seeds. She's under a lot of stress. Marla's really passionate, but sometimes too passionate. Let's keep this one tight. Don't want things to spiral. And like that, she became radioactive. The final straw came on a Tuesday when she arrived to find her desk relocated without warning. No note, no explanation. Just her monitor and a half-unplugged charging cable plopped in a dusty corner between the janitor's closet and the fire extinguisher. She wheeled her chair across the room in silence, like a ghost haunting the floor she helped build. No one met her eyes. And came the email. Hey Marla, due to departmental reallocation, we've adjusted some seating to improve collaboration flow. Let us know if you need anything. Operations team collaboration flow. Right, apparently flow meant out of sight, out of mind. She noticed other things too, quiet cuts. Death by 1,000 throttles. Her Git permissions, once admin, now limited to read only on the repository she founded. Build access blocked. Feature flags revoked. Deploy script she'd maintained for a year, transferred to Craig, whose greatest engineering feat so far was deleting a production database by accident and blaming it on a power surge. When she pinged IT about it, the reply was as empty as a cereal box at a frat house. Hi Marla, access adjustments are part of an ongoing review of infrastructure responsibilities. Thanks for your flexibility. Flexibility. Like she was a yoga mat for them to step on. And came the cherry on top, her bonus. She was due for 12% equity vest and a performance bump. Instead, she got a one-line message from finance. Hi Marla, your Q3 bonus is currently under internal review. We'll circle back soon. She didn't reply, she didn't yell, didn't demand a meeting or fire off a Slack storm. She sat in her corner, cracked open the patent doc again, and this time really looked. Buried in the Properties tab under Created were her original file IDs. MJT Org Design V3, MJT Test Logs 0427, time-stamped, her metadata, her fingerprints. They hadn't even bothered to scrub it properly. She leaned back in her chair, heart pounding behind her ribs like a trapped thing. Screenshots, dozens of them, properties, author tags, hash checks. Even the server trail, it all pointed back to her. They'd copied her work, renamed it, rebranded it. They couldn't erase the trail. And that was the moment Marla stopped hoping for justice. Now she wanted proof. She wanted receipts, she wanted blood. But most of all, she wanted them to underestimate her. So she smiled through meetings, nodded through stand-ups, and laughed politely when Landon made his weak-ass jokes about battery drama. She played her part. Because nobody notices the woman in the corner. Not until she burns the whole place down. The law office was in a strip mall between a vape shop and a nail salon, with no name on the glass door, just a black sticker that said Suite 206, and a bell that jingled like a threat. Marla didn't come in through a referral. She found Gina Klein the same way you find hitmen in movies, through whispered online forums, buried tech lawyer Reddit threads, and one anonymous reply from a guy who claimed she took down a contractor so hard the dude changed vendors out of embarrassment. Gina didn't dress like a lawyer. She wore combat boots, an ancient hoodie that said NASA lies, and a ponytail that looked like it had survived a war. When Marla showed her the first folder, screenshots, commits, metadata, Gina didn't flinch. She just opened a notepad, clicked her pen, and said, "Walk me through it." Slowly. For 3 hours, Marla did just that. She laid it out like an autopsy, test by test, file by file, the Slack thread where she suggested the buffer mod, the timestamp git commits, even the early whiteboard photos with her handwriting in the corner. Gina didn't say much, she just kept writing. Finally, she leaned back and gave Marla the look of someone who just discovered a roach in their cereal. "This isn't just a case," she said, voice low and flat. "This is career-ending." For them, Marla didn't cry, didn't grin, she just nodded once, calm and steady. The kind of nod people give when they've made peace with fire. "Okay," she said, "what do we do first?" Gina already had a plan. Step 1, lock the paper trail. She gave Marla a secure USB to store every version of her designs, preferably dated twice, once digitally, once through physical scan. Step 2, subpoena grade requests. Gina needed every internal revision log from the company's GitHub. Every Slack export going back 3 months. Meeting invites, calendar entries, build deploy diffs. Don't request them yourself, Gina warned. Just start logging what exists. Don't raise flags yet, they don't know you've lawyered up. Let's keep it that way. They parted with a firm handshake and zero sentimentality. Gina wasn't here to be nice, she was here to win. Back in her apartment, Marla opened a new notebook. Operation Dead Voltage, she wrote at the top. She began cataloging everything. She reopened the design files and started cross-referencing line edits, color-coding which blocks had been written by her and which were repackaged by Landon's interns. She created a spreadsheet with Slack timestamps next to corresponding commits. She linked screenshots to email threads like she was mapping a crime scene. She didn't feel like a victim anymore. She felt like a goddamn archivist of corporate betrayal. Each Slack message she reviewed from Landon made her jaw tighten. We'll circle back to attribution later. Let's keep names light until we finalize IP. Marla's being a bit territorial. Let's all take a breath. She bookmarked them all, indexed them. Gina would know what to do with it. Then she went silent. No angry emails, no confrontations, no hint that she was doing anything other than attending meetings, sipping stale coffee, and pretending to care about Tyler's new obsession with Web3 battery tokenization. They thought she was folding, but Marla was sharpening her knives, and now she had a shark in her corner. Marla started wearing lipstick again, not for them but for the performance. Bright red, bulletproof. She became terrifyingly pleasant, laughed at Craig's dad jokes, brought in donuts, nodded thoughtfully during meetings where they recycled her own ideas like microwaved leftovers. Inside, she was ice. Every day was an extraction mission. She'd walk into the office, sit at her corner desk of shame, open her laptop, and begin pulling metadata like she was mining uranium. Test logs, version histories, comparison diffs from her original prototype to the final patent draft, they all had fingerprints. And every one of them pointed to her. Batch after batch, she sent the goods to Gina. Encrypted, organized, timestamped. Subject, batch 5 Slack DMs plus repo edit trail graphite mod V8 overwrite with no attribution Landon requesting edits from Tyler. Post-submission Slack convo where Craig asks, wait, isn't this Marla's thing? Screenshot attached internal log pulled from server cache. Gina replied within hours. Solid. Keep going. I'm prepping the first filing. You're about to see some fireworks. Meanwhile, the company buzzed like a beehive full of nitroglycerin. Landon and the CEO had started whispering about big numbers, Series B runway, and disruption optics. The company even brought in a brand consultant to tidy up the narrative. Marla watched it all unfold like a nature documentary. VCs were circling. Meetings were booked. One name kept popping up, Karcher Capital, a $300M venture firm with a reputation for cutting checks fast and cutting losses even faster. The execs cleaned up the office, hired a new designer to update the pitch deck, brought in cold brew on tap. Even Craig started wearing button-downs. Marla, she took notes. Every new claim Landon made about the core engineering team, every line he attributed to himself in meetings, every slide in the pitch deck that conveniently skipped over who led the battery breakthrough. And behind the scenes, Gina went to work. She didn't call. She didn't schedule meetings. She sent one thing, a confidential notice of claim to the company's legal department. Just a quiet little grenade. Who? Legal at Arsenergatech subject. Notice of potential patent fraud client, Marla Thomas, attached. Preliminary evidence of authorship misrepresentation, timeline analysis of internal design, commits list of witnesses and documentation notice to preserve all internal communications, logs, and related IP documentation effective immediately. This message and its attachments are subject to legal privilege. Do not forward. She BCC'd the USPTO liaison. Marla didn't hear about it for 2 days, but she noticed something strange. Landon stopped making eye contact. The CEO's assistant canceled the upcoming strategy sync with her. HR went completely silent. Then she got an email from legal asking if she was available to chat, just informally. She declined. Instead, she opened her notebook, crossed off the word survive, and replaced it with Barry. Thought she was a problem to contain. What they didn't realize? She was the fuse already burning through the walls of their empire. The subject line was almost boring. FWD, clean up patent drafts, but the contents were anything but. Gina's message came late, 2:03 a.m. Marla was awake anyway, staring at her ceiling, mind churning like a server on fire. When her phone lit up, she saw one line in the body of the email. This is it. She opened the attachment. An email thread, Slack export format, internal. Timestamp 6 days before the patent filing. Sender, Landon R.L. Recipient, Tyler and Craig. Subject, design logs the message read. Before we submit final, do a pass on the logs. Anything with MJT or her initials needs to go. I don't want the review board pinging us for early stage noise. Keep it clean. Then a reply from Tyler, got it, deleting now. We'll upload with just Team Alpha versions. Craig, should we also update the Figma timeline to shift the mod date? Just in case they cross-check. Landon, yep, push it out by 2 weeks. Match it to Craig's timestamp, no loose ends. Marla sat there with the thread open, hand pressed flat against her chest like she was trying to stop her heart from evacuating her body. They didn't just exclude her, they erased her. Deliberately, they rewrote time. Took her fingerprints off the murder weapon and gave it to the interns with shaky hands and company hoodies. They built a story on top of her spine and pretended it was teamwork. She scrolled back up. Reread the line, anything with MJT or her initials needs to go. She didn't cry, she didn't rage. The betrayal had stopped burning a long time ago. Now it just throbbed, dull and quiet like a phantom limb. She saved the file, printed it twice. One for Gina, one for her safety deposit box. Then she opened a clean browser window, typed in the USPTO filing portal, logged into the secure whistleblower system Gina had pre-registered for her, and uploaded the formal complaint. Attachments: complete project history logs, comparative design, diffs, internal communications, Exhibit C, legal notice chain supporting metadata bundle. She typed a note in the comment box. Lead engineer on original design. Contributions were removed and timeline falsified to exclude authorship. Evidence attached. She didn't sign it with anger. She signed it with precision. Marla Jig Thomas, Senior Systems Engineer, Arc Energy Tech, pending departure. Then she clicked submit. The confirmation screen blinked once. A digital echo that felt louder than any scream. And just like that, everything they'd built on her stolen work was now under federal review. She closed her laptop, leaned back in her chair, and stared at the glow of her monitor as if it were the sun rising over a battlefield. They wanted her erased. Now she was permanent. The first ripple hit on a Thursday. USPTO docket hash 1129 to 483T was updated at 10:41 a.m. with a one-line notation. Temporary hold issued pending investigation of authorship discrepancy. In legalese, it was surgical. Cold, clinical. But in the startup world, that line was a nuke. Within 4 hours, the news leaked. Some sharp-eyed analysts spotted the change on a patent monitoring dashboard, flagged it in a Discord channel full of VCs and tech ghouls, and within minutes the whispers started. By Friday, Marla was hearing secondhand that Karcher Capital had rescheduled indefinitely. Then Horizon Ventures paused due diligence. Then an internal Slack message from the CFO pinged the entire exec team. We need to control the optics on this. Talking points by COB. She watched it all from her desk, sipping cold tea. Didn't say a word, didn't even smirk. Just clicked through a Jira board like nothing around her was burning. Craig passed by her cube and offered a nervous hey with the same energy as a guy trying to pet a rattlesnake. Tyler had stopped making eye contact altogether. Meanwhile, Landon was unraveling. First came the emergency all hands where he babbled about clerical ambiguity and clarity pending resolution, pacing in front of a slideshow no one cared about. Then came the sudden rebranding effort, pulling her name into the narrative with lines like, "We've always respected the work of every engineer here, including Marla." She didn't flinch. On Monday, someone leaked a recording of an investor call. A partner from Karcher Capital, ex-McKinsey, voice like an executioner, was caught saying, "Why the hell is the patent tied up in a legal challenge? You expect us to drop $40 million on unstable IP?" Silence on the line. Then the CEO stammering something about miscommunication and active resolution. Too late. The call ended 5 minutes later. The deal died before lunch. The office turned gray, like the color drained out of people's faces. No more group lunches. No more Friday trivia. The kombucha tap went dry. Someone stole the company PS5. Marla came in every morning, clocked in like it was still normal, and waited. She'd already filed everything. Gina had escalated to the USPTO fraud division. The company lawyers hadn't even tried to reach her directly since the notice hit, probably afraid anything they said would be Exhibit G. The CEO attempted one last performance, forced town hall full of phrases like headwinds and ongoing dialogue with stakeholders. Landon stood beside him, pale and sweating, clutching his notes like a drowning man holds driftwood. Marla stood in the back, silent, unbothered. Her inbox pinged with a new message from Gina. They're circling the drain. Board will make a move soon. Don't blink. She didn't, because the thing about taking back what they stole, it's not about shouting your truth. It's about letting silence do the talking, while their empire crumbles under the weight of your receipts. The NDA came in a manila envelope, hand-delivered by a jittery paralegal who couldn't look Marla in the eye. Inside, a check, low 6 figures, a settlement agreement, and a non-disclosure clause that might as well have been printed in blood. In recognition of past contributions, and to ensure mutual goodwill moving forward, she didn't even finish the sentence. Just folded the check once, then twice, then slid it back into the envelope and placed it gently on the front desk of legal like a used tissue. That afternoon, Gina called, voice crisp, no preamble. USPTO just issued the final decision. Fraud confirmed, their patent's dead. Marla closed her eyes, let the silence flood in. It wasn't joy, it wasn't even relief, it was clarity, like the static in her head had been vacuumed out. They're gonna come crawling. Gina added, you ready? Marla smiled, the corners of her mouth lifting like a knife unsheathing. Been ready. They tried the pity route next. A board liaison called her a man who once forgot her name in an all-hands and referred to her as the battery girl. Look, Marla, we recognize the situation was messy, but we really believe in your future. We'd love to partner with you, maybe even bring you back on as a technical fellow. She hung up before he finished the sentence. That night, she filed her own solo patent, her name and her name only. USPTO expedited it under whistleblower provisions. Gina included an affidavit detailing authorship fraud and internal tampering. They didn't even contest it. Why would they? Series B collapsed within the week. Their investor list was now radioactive. News had spread. A hot green tech company caught falsifying IP, with a pending fraud ruling and no legal claim to its core innovation. Then the real blow hit. Enduracell, one of the biggest battery materials suppliers in the country, sent an email terminating their vendor agreement, citing irreparable reputational risk. No raw materials, no funding, no prototype, no future. Marla rented a cheap glass conference room at a WeWork downtown. She brought her laptop, a thermos of coffee, and her favorite pen, the one she'd used to sketch the first draft of the mod on a napkin 3 years ago. Opened a blank email, addressed it to Landon's personal account. No greeting, no closing, just one line, "I'll let you know what my licensing terms are." She hit send. Then she leaned back, propped her boots on the table, and watched the cursor blink. Not out of hesitation, out of dominance. They'd offered silence for her genius, a payout for her identity, an NDA for her name. Now she held everything, and they held nothing. They marched Landon out on a Tuesday. No scene, no speech. Just two security guards in matching windbreakers flanking him like bookends, while he clutched a sad little cardboard box with a succulent sticking out. The same guy who once bragged he'd cracked $100M before 40 was now being escorted out like a shoplifter with a PhD. Marla didn't watch it live. Didn't need to. Someone recorded it through the HR window. It hit Slack within minutes, then hit Twitter. His LinkedIn was scrubbed by nightfall. Profile gone. Bio replaced with looking for new opportunities. By Friday, the exec team issued a final press release that read like a funeral program. Due to unforeseen operational challenges, Arc Energy Tech will cease operations effective immediately. Translation, they bled out. With no IP, no supplier, and no investor willing to touch a flaming wreck, the company crashed hard. Whatever wasn't nailed down got liquidated. Office chairs, fridges, even the smart whiteboard Marla had etched her first graphite model on was listed on Craigslist for $50. She got an alert 3 weeks later. Gina forwarded the final closing report. Total remaining runway, $42,113 payroll status, defaulted legal proceedings, settled with prejudice. Marla didn't pop champagne. Didn't even smirk. She just opened her inbox, clicked on a message labeled confirmation of transfer, and read the terms for the last time. Patent license agreement buyer, TerraVolt Systems, Inc. Amount, $18.6 million USD conditions. Full rights, perpetual license. Inventor attribution mandatory. It was more than Arc Energy's entire Series A. More than Landon's 5-year comp package. More than she'd ever imagined when she first sketched the mod on a paper napkin beside a busted vending machine. But the number wasn't the crown. Her name was every version of the patent, every public-facing brief, every licensing doc, pitch deck, and PR write-up. Inventor, Marla J. Thomas, she didn't just win. She reclaimed her name like a stolen artifact pulled from the bottom of the ocean. A month later, on a quiet morning thick with Texas humidity, she took a detour on her way home and walked past the old Arc Energy building. The glass doors were smudged, the lights off, and taped across the inside window was a bright orange for lease sign curling at the corners. Out front, a lone intern, Tyler, still wearing his now worthless company hoodie, was picking at the vinyl decal on the front door. The letters ARC peeled slowly, clinging like regret. Marla watched him struggle for a minute, then kept walking. Not with vengeance, with peace. There's something deeply satisfying about watching a quiet professional dismantle an empire with nothing but receipts. It's a reminder that in the long game of office politics, silence isn't weakness, it's preparation. Sometimes the best revenge is being the one who writes the rules next time. Big thanks for watching, you sneaky seniors. Subscribe to keep the coffee pot brewing revenge. Your ex-colleagues won't know what hit 'em.